Hey everyone, I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her podcast. We have an amazing guest with us tonight, and I'm just really excited about everything, her testimony, the things that she have going on. It is just so amazing. But Gwen McDowell, she's an award-winning filmmaker, artist, author, and performer who turned unimaginable pain into purpose. After losing her father and enduring the foster care system, Gwen used her voice to create powerful art that heals and uplifts. From from performing at the Lincoln Center and Kennedy Center to writing and directing an award-winning film, Stained Glass, she has a true example of resilience, faith, and creative purpose. Get ready to be inspired by a woman has proven that your past and it does not define you at all, and your purpose does. And we all should just listen to her amazing story. Hey, Gwen, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. How are you today or this evening?
I am good, girl. I just got a little tongue tied.
No worries. It happens. It happens.
No. So, Gwen, you transform an imaginable pain into powerful art, which is amazing. From what I saw the beginning of your video, it was very empowering. What do you remember most vividly about your early years of foster care, and how did those experiences plant the seed for your creative voice?
Whew, that's a loaded question. Well, I can remember from my childhood that myself and my siblings were taken away from my mom. My mom was having a nervous breakdown. I remember her in the hallway trying to climb the fire escape. I remember um, several policemen coming into our home and ushering us out. I remember being very confused. And I remember one particular officer on the outside of my window prior to them coming in to get my siblings and I, giving me a warm smile. And that, I don't know, I will never forget that smile. It gave me a little peace, although I didn't understand what was going on. I was 5 years old actually at the time. And I remember being brisked off to what is no longer existing now, Junior Village. Junior Village was a huge orphanage. I think it was like the one of the greatest, if not the greatest, biggest orphan in the U.S., but it was located here in DC, I believe Southwest. And I remember going there, and I remember it being a very horrible place. And I remember my siblings and I being mistreated there. And from there, we were sent to a foster home where we were just profusely abused, mistreated. And I remember caseworkers coming in, examining our bodies and finding bruises all over us. And we were removed from that foster home and sent to another foster home that was more loving. And we remained there. I know I remained there until I aged out of the foster care system at the age of 18. Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot. Like,
Yes. It was.
yeah,
It was.
that was a lot to endure. So, when did you first realize that your story was meant to be shared and not just lived through? What and was there any specific moments or turning point?
Well, so most of my years growing up, I felt invisible. I felt like I was out of place. I felt like I was a mistake. I felt like I shouldn't be here. And just going through the different tosses of turning of life, even through my teenage years, just so insecure with myself, just having a massive identity crisis throughout my life. I noticed at a very young age that I had a gift for singing. Actually, my second foster home, where I was, more nurtured, noticed that I had a gift for singing. So eventually I did audition for the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and that was a lifesaver for me. I went there, I studied in music. I also studied musical theater, and I fell in love with it. It was my safe haven. It was my escape. It brought me so much peace, and I just got lost in it, and I fell in love with that. And of course, I graduated. I traveled throughout the world just singing and doing musical theater. But finally, I think maybe a few years before COVID, I said, you know what? I am going to put my voice print in the world. I came to a point where I was battling with being ashamed of what I went through. I felt like I was muted. I felt like I needed to get this out. I felt like this was part of my healing, to remove the shame, because I was so embarrassed by it. I didn't know a lot of my family. I still, even to this day, there's a lot of my family members that I don't know. But I felt like part of my breakthrough and part of my continued healing was to tell my story and not be ashamed. So I originally wrote it for stage, and I was excited about that, and getting to a point, I did a script read, and COVID hit. So that took away that particular opportunity. And so I was, planning, doing my, creative thoughts, just kind of seeing how I could still get this on stage. And a pastor prophesied to me. She said, "Oh, you know what? This is a movie." And I had never done a movie before. I didn't know what that was. I'm like, I'm a stage director, because I was at that time. And I said, well, maybe I'll videotape it on like my phone, or get someone to get a camera and videotape it. Maybe we could post it to social media, because COVID was still in, high effect at the time. But then I began to see some actors who had the what is it, the clear mask, that they were on stage. And of course, I think at that time you could only have like a maximum of 10 people in the building, or and so forth. So there were like people doing stage plays, but they had like the see-through mask, just protecting them. And I said, well, maybe I can do that. Maybe I could break my scenes down and have people come into the building that have like the invisible, the see-through mask, and we could do it that way. But the place that I had booked to do it, they were not opening the building. They were still in full COVID. So when things began to lift, by that time I had prayed, and I had did a lot of Google research, reaching out to different individuals. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try to do a film. I didn't have any background or anything like that, but God began to connect me with people in the industry to give me insight. I received a lot of consultation and so forth. And to make a long story short, when the COVID guidelines kind of lifted up, where you could have more people, in a building, we did social distancing. I had including myself, had everyone test every week, and we began to film, and it was a huge success. It sold out twice at the Regal Theater. Wow. I submitted it into various film festivals, which won in New York, London, Milan, Italy, France. It was also accepted here at the PG festival, and I got a chance to meet Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles. Her and I talked. They really imparted into my life, and it was very impactful. So I got an opportunity to tell my story. That was part of my healing. It was part of that final thing that had me feeling like, if I told it, that people would not accept me or they would begin to judge me. It was actually liberating for me. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. And sometimes, like how we're brought up, or just the dynamics of family, it's like what stays in our house stays in our house, instead of actually expressing yourself and letting people know different things that transpired in your life, because a lot of people could be relatable to you and you won't even know it until you actually speak up and you can help someone else. And I feel like sometimes, a lot of times, telling your story is more or less like a testimony to help someone else anyways, because like I said, you just never know. But I admire you so much for even having the strength to even just do that, because I know it took a lot out of you to even express that. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, but in doing it, again, it was very liberating. And the
That's
confirmation for me was that I got so much outpour of love, and I got so many people sharing with me that they had abusive relationships too, and how they were going to
yeah.
begin to, take the steps to heal and to tell their story and to get therapy and to be able to talk about it, and to actually go back to the loved ones, the family members, to reconnect, to readjust it, to reach out to them so they can, I guess, solidify their healing. So that was, for me, that was the biggest reward out of it all. And I was elated that I helped someone through telling my story, to say that although we go through like traumatic things in our life, that's not our end, that we have a purpose, and there is, triumph after trials and tribulations, and the horror that we experience in our life. That's not who we are. It doesn't identify us, and it's not the end.
No, it isn't the end. That Thank
No.
you for that, because a lot of people need to hear that, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did the loss of your father at a young age impact your sense of identity, and how has that evolved over time through your work?
So now, in the movie, Um, I had my dad die in the movie, but my dad actually died, during COVID. So the movie is tweaked a little bit, of course, for entertainment purposes, but I did not want to, in most movies, paint, the picture of the bad father, the one who was sleeping around with a lot of women, because it kind of, that was more so
Yeah.
the reality of what happened. And so, again, the movie is based on true events, but there were some creative moments that I kind of just, soured out. And that was my dad. Now, my dad, in real life, I really did not have a close relationship with him, not until I would say my latter 30s, middle 40s. Now I'm almost 60. So my dad did die in COVID, but I did have a wonderful relationship with my dad towards the end of his life.
That's good. That's really
Yeah.
good. So with stained glass, your film, how do you balance the vulnerability with the creative control when telling the real lived experiences, especially the ones that's tied deep wounds?
So here. Here's a very interesting thing. I had over 100 people in my film, and that included the principal characters along with the extras. What I did was during the filming and just the whole process of it, I never told the actors, I never told anyone on set or anyone who was involved with the creative process of this film that it was my story.
Oh, wow.
So that kept me focused, and it kept the actors, the production team, everyone focused on the project. And I'm so thankful that I did that, because I believe if I had told them that, oh, this is my story, there would have been a lot of distraction. I
Yeah.
believe there would have been a lot of, just, I don't know, just, yeah, it would have been a lot of, I felt it would have been a lot of destruction. So when the film was premiered, after the film was done, at the end, I came down to the front of our sold out audience in the theater, and I called the cast up and the production team, and I called my siblings up who were there as well. And that's when I revealed to the cast and to the entire production team that this was my story. And they were like, "Oh my God." And there was so many tears, there was just so much compassion, and that's when everything came out, everything. And this is what I didn't want on set, although I was
Yeah.
excited to see that. I believe that it was more impactful that I did not share that, on set with them. And so it was a very dynamic, emotional, overwhelming, beautiful moment that I received from my cast and my production team. It was just a big love affair.
Oh my God. That would, oh, I know that was amazing.
It was. It really was. It really was.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goodness. So in your book, God Speaks, you share that God breathed words of encouragement to sustain you. Can you share one of those words or messages that carried you during your darkest times?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. God Speaks. I wrote that. Well, actually, it was published 2012, but the book came about through, I would say, a span of maybe 5 or more years. Part of my healing due to the horror that I experienced in the foster care system, um, I often struggled mentally and emotionally just to be sound. And when I would have moments of despair or just feeling overwhelmed with life, I would write. And it would be like a poem here, could be a poem about me being sad, a poem about me trying to encourage myself in the Lord, just poems about relationships and so forth. And I would write them, and I would just put them in a folder, because I would, go back to them, because they would, encourage me. And they were God given words. I would be praying, talking to God, and I would just write some words down. Well, yeah, I'm going to write this down, because if I start feeling this again, I'm going to go back and read that, to remind myself. So this was a form of therapy for me. And so over the years, I noticed that the poems were kind of stacking up. And so I found myself just going through them every day, trying to find out which one, I need. I remember writing something about this. Let me go back and find it. And I would pull it up. And I was sitting at my desk. I was at a temp job one day, and there was really not a lot going on. It was just not busy, and I was just kind of bored. And I heard God say, "Put this in a book." And again, I had no experience really about, being a writer, author, had no idea how to even do that. So I once again Googled, found it out on Google. I began to Google about, how do you write a book? I'm not a writer. And the money, where would I even get the money? Isn't it expensive? So, to make a long story short, I did some research. I found a publishing company called Author House, and I talked to them. And I told them, I said, I got, stack of poems, but I don't even know where to begin. And they said that we will walk you through the process, no worries. And shortly after that, I had a nervous breakdown. I had a nervous, like a real life nervous breakdown, and I was hospitalized. I went through depression. I was in a very, very difficult marriage. Um, yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that right there. I went through a very difficult marriage, but then, after my divorce, it came back to me again, and I reached out to Arthur House, and they told me, well, you paid in full a few years ago, so a few years had passed. And I was like, I did. I don't remember, because when I was clinically diagnosed with depression, there was like a little bit of memory loss. So I didn't even realize that I had paid. So they walked me through the process. It was very challenging because, again, I didn't know anything about, being an author, but I did it. And in 2012, I became an author. The poem that sticks out to me is called "It Doesn't Matter." It doesn't matter what this world may think about me anymore. The only thing that matters is that God sent Jesus. He died so I can live.
Mm.
And 2023, I produced my first music video in regards to the poem that is in my book. And at the end of the day, even when thoughts try to come to make me feel like, oh, something's wrong with you because, you grew up in a foster care system. You didn't really grow up with the rest of your family, and you're odd. You don't matter. You don't have anything to say. And I went through life, and people see me now. Thank God I don't look like what I went through. And when people see you flowing in who you are and who God created you to be, I didn't wake up this way. If you knew my childhood, you would be applauding me. You would be thankful for the things that I have found through the pain and the traumatic childhood that I went through. So, when people see that, God has blessed me, he's opening doors for me. And, there are times that you don't get the love, you don't necessarily get the support, because all they see is that you're being blessed. And I'm like, I can't focus on that. I'm going to be the best version of who God made me. So it doesn't matter what the world thinks about me anymore. I'm going to go forth, and I'm going to be the best person that I can be, and to pour out and to give back to others, and to empower them, and to let them know that you can make it. There is purpose through your pain. There's purpose after your pain. And so that is one of my favorite poems out of my book.
Wow. Wow. I admire your strength, your resilience and everything, because it's a lot of people that can't recover from it, and it
Mhm.
just be stuck with them for the rest of their lives. And I just want to congratulate you
Thank
for
you.
just even keep on pressing forward, because you are a prime example. Your pain doesn't define your purpose, and what people think and say and all that. I'm glad you're past that phase, and just going through life itself the way you want to, the way that
Mhm.
makes you happy. That is like strength beyond words that I can't even explain myself.
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
seriously.
yeah, there are days, and don't get me wrong, it is a continued journey. There are times,
You're human.
for anyone who has experienced trauma, whether you are a child or an adult, there are times when those thoughts creep up, or when you go through like seasons of feeling like you're going backwards. But what helps me is, again, my love for God, my love for the arts, and to be intentional to push past what you're feeling and to always be mindful that your past is your past. You know, you have moments. I have days where I'm sad. I have days that I still get depressed. A few days ago, I passed the neighborhood where I grew up, and I just bust into tears. I cried for like a good hour. But the thing is not to stay there, because crying sometimes, or just kind of embracing that moment, is part of the continued healing. When I was diagnosed with clinical depression, that came from suppressing, trying to act like, those feelings aren't there. And it's a part of, like, the same thing, like when you grieve,
Yeah.
when you think of your loved one, you will have moments where you are joyful, and you have moments, it could be years later down the line, that you cry, you feel sad. And
Right.
so, for anyone out there, I mean, I haven't arrived. I have not, I don't ever feel any sadness, or I don't ever, feel depressed, or I don't ever have mental moments. I have a therapist, when I feel like I need one, I call one. So all those things are, necessary. So I did want to say that. Now, I have not arrived.
Yes. So have you ever just really just sat there and thought about your accomplishments and all that you've done, as far as like the amazing things, your filmmaking and just everything? Have you just sat back and just congratulated yourself and be proud of yourself?
Not really. Not really. Wow. Wow. I'm thankful to still be here. I'm thankful to still be sound. I need to do that, because honestly, I haven't, like, really sat down and just tried to, like,
Yes.
I have to do that.
Yes.
Some things, like I said, like my film, me going to Duke Ellington, there are, like, different things that I like, oh yeah, I did it. But as a whole, um, for me to even, like, try to grasp it, it's amazing to me, because I have accomplished a lot. And so, no, I haven't, to be honest, but that is something I am going to do, because I do need to take a moment to just embrace it all, and to
Yes.
just have my moment and congratulate myself. I'm so used to pouring out,
Yeah.
into everyone else. Yes, thank you. I will definitely do that.
You're welcome. I've noticed that with many entrepreneurs, and we just work because this is what we want to do. It's passionate for us. We have a purpose. We have a mission. We have so much going on, and we are on a constant go, to a point we never really just sit back and just be like, wow, I accomplished this. And when you really think back, you be like, dang, you is like, okay, you know, because I personally, I haven't done it beforehand, but lately I've been like giving myself grace, like giving myself an applause, because I've never realized how much I've done in the years of my life that was just so amazing. And so it's like I be wanting people to have that feeling too, because along the way, sometimes people try to discredit you, they try to
Yeah,
discredit you, and they act like you ain't did nothing. And then we be so humble, we never really talk about the things that we do and just put things out there because it's natural for us. We feel like this is what we supposed to do. But
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
sometimes you have to pop your stuff and be like, well, I've done this. I've
Mm,
been there before, but you could do it in a humble way as well. And it's like a lot of times the humbleness can get in our way of us actually giving ourselves credit when it needs to be due, you know?
Okay. So it's not just me then, because I was having like an embarrassing moment here. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't celebrated myself. And you're right. As entrepreneurs and people who are in our passion, we're just passioning, we're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
giving passion. We're out there and we're pouring and we're doing what we love. But it is okay to sit
Yes.
back and, you know,
Yes.
think about and acknowledge the things that we have accomplished and to celebrate ourselves. So I'm going to
Yes.
be very intentional about that from now on.
Yes, you have to, because I've dealt with jealous and envy people at times, and with the things that I was doing or when I'm introducing myself or something, it'd be ears of people that think I'm bragging instead of ears of people like, man, you are really dope. You are doing this. So I had hid myself for so long. And when I go to networking events or something, I never really say what I do.
Yeah.
I really don't say nothing. It's like I muted myself for a while, but it's like now it's like, okay, I need to basically tell people what I do. And then
Mhm.
sometimes I be wanting people to know me for me instead of what I do, for it to
Yeah.
be that kind of gain connection. I just want an authentic connection. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of reasons, but I do want you to try to do that for yourself because you deserve it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I have experienced that too. And I guess it's probably finding a balance because I have
Yeah.
been in the company of, it could be other people in the industry, family or friends, or even at work, where I just don't talk about it because it comes off to them as if you're bragging. And all I am doing is celebrating that the fact that I've accomplished this thing and I did this thing, and I'm like, do you know my background? Like, I wouldn't even expect for me to be alive. And based on my upcoming, I never thought in a million years that I could have accomplished all the things I've accomplished. So for me, it's coming from a place of excitement, but when you see others kind of turn their nose up at you or avoid you, or they intentionally try to sabotage,
Yeah.
your projects, or, to do what I call a character assassination campaign, it has caused me to be like, I ain't gonna say nothing. Somebody else gonna say something about me.
Right.
But it really is, I say with me and going forward, just finding a balance because there is that other side that you want people to know what you have done, not to brag or whatever, but hey,
Yeah.
can we collaborate? Hey, I have something that I can offer, to the industry. And
Yeah.
so I am definitely going to be more intentional about that going forward. So thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You are more than welcome. So with you being in the film industry, what has been the biggest challenge that you face as a Black woman in film and theater, and how did you overcome it?
Hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had like a challenge being a woman per se.
Hmm.
Um, not thus far. It's been pretty good. I
That's
would
good.
say that the greatest challenge for me um really is resources, is money. It costs money to do
Hmm.
films. It costs money to, do any particular project. So that is my greatest challenge. But I have not faced, any like obstacles or anything, not as of yet, as me being a woman, in the industry. Thank God.
I know that's a blessing. So, what do you
Mhm.
want young Black girls or even any other race? watching you to know about owning their voice in spaces that weren't built from them?
Well, I would want them to know, first of all, that nobody is a mistake. You know, you weren't born a mistake, and every single person that is here on this earth has a purpose. And to the things that you really, really love to do is probably part of what you have been called to do.
Mm.
It's part of your purpose. And so don't ignore that. Like, if you just love cooking, you just have a love for cooking, you know, God has a calling for you with that. And you just like write down, like, there's a saying, write the vision and make it plain. Begin to just like write down notes. How do you feel when you cook? Or even if you're a dancer or an actor or a journalist, a minister, whatever that thing that you seem to love to do, spend time with that. Write your thoughts down, journal. What it is that you see yourself doing. How do you feel when you're doing it? And to surround your people, to surround yourself with people who have that like passion. It's very important to be surrounded with people who can pour into you and to help you. And no dream is stupid. You will have naysayers. I've had people, tell me, you're doing too much. With my movie, it sounds crazy. You're never going to be able to do that. I've had people walk away. I've had people to say, that ain't gonna last. And so, what the things that you desire and the gifts that are in you and the things that you like and love that your friends or your family members may not really care too much about it, own it, stay with it, nurture it, build it, because that's what I did. And I feel like part of me, I'm trying to catch up because of so many years that I did not pursue my dreams because of what others thought. I was a people pleaser.
Mm.
I would say many, many people who have made it to the top um, have stayed focused to what they love. You can't worry about what others say. You can't even worry about the obstacles. You have to take one day at a time and stick to it and never, ever, ever give up. I used to hear that for years. People would say, "Oh, never, never get up." I thought it really was a cliche. And finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to never, never give up. And as I began to take one step, in front of another, you're talking about a person who was in foster care, who was in a orphanage, who was separated from their family. I didn't know who I was. I felt invisible. But I said, you know what? If I'm going to live, I am going to be the best version of myself somehow. And I never gave up. And I'm still not giving up. There's still much more that I want to pursue. And so that is my sweet advice, to pursue your dreams. And it is true. If you don't give up, it will happen. It is very challenging. You're going to have obstacles, but those obstacles and those challenges is what's making you stronger. It's what's, you're going to learn things. You will have failure. I failed at, different projects and different things, but all of that is a part of the journey. All of that is a part of you being the great person that God created you to be.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to embrace it, take the necessary steps, and go forward. Giving up is not an option.
No.
It's
So,
not.
a filmmaker, author, or a creative, who inspires you today?
You mean a person who
Yes.
inspires me, or
Yes.
whoo, goodness, there's so many. Well, as a well, Tyler Perry, he really inspires me. I need to get in contact with him because I could learn so much from him. I would love to collaborate with him. One of my favorite actresses is Taraji Henson. I'm going to do a movie with her one day.
Yeah.
But my ultimate inspiration is God Himself. Is God
Yeah.
Himself, and I give everything that I have, to Him. He leads and guides me each and every day. My favorite singer, one of my favorite singers is Yolanda Adams. She's a gospel singer, and so I pull from each of those. I know Taraji. She's from the DC area, which is where I'm from. And I love her story, how she, with her son, just stepped out in faith and went for it. She went for her dreams. Tyler Perry, who, I think he was homeless, but
Yeah.
he never gave up. And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about, that you can make it. It doesn't matter what condition or what situation is challenging you. But them obstacles, walk through them, and they are such an encouragement and an inspiration. And I'm often reminded of the struggles and the roadblocks that these people have had to go through, and look where they are today. So they are an amazing encouragement to me.
Yes. So what would you tell the 9-year-old Gwen?
I would tell my 9-year-old Gwen, whew, ooh, 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 ooh. I would tell her, Gwen, this too shall pass. I know it's hard now. I know things don't make any sense, but you're going to leave your voice print and your footprint in the earth. You're going to make it. And in order for you to make it, you have to live, and you have to go through so you can make it through and be the greatest version of yourself that God made you. And there's a bright future ahead of you. You may not see it now, but if you keep living, you're going to walk into it, and your latter days are going to be greater than what you are experiencing now.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is. So how can people watch your film and get in contact with you and connect with you?
So you can watch my film. You can go to my website, blossomartist.com. It is also uploaded on my YouTube channel, Gwendolyn McDowell. My Instagram is blossom_artist. That's with artist with an S at the end. And on Facebook, Blossom Artist.
Thank you. Well, thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much, Gwen, for sharing such a personal testimony and the amazing things that you're doing in film.
No, and thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to have this platform to share my story. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube, and you can also listen to Life Her Podcast on all major platforms. Thank you.